Chapter 11. It's just power play. Fang Yuan frowned slightly. Based on intuition and 500 years' worth of life experience, he could smell a conspiracy. His eyes flashed, and he relaxed his brows. "I'm a little hungry right now. You came at the right time. Come in," he said. Outside the door, while carrying the food box, Shen Kui smiled coldly as she heard his reply. But when she pushed open the door, her face was left with a gentle and meek expression. "Young Master Fang Yuan, the food and wine smells really good. I can smell it as I hold the box." Her voice was sweet and had a hint of longing and flattery. She put the food box on a small table and took out the dishes, arranging them nicely. The food was indeed very fragrant and tasty. After that, she took out 2 wine cups and poured the wine. "Come, young master, sit down. Your servant mustered her courage today and wants to accompany young master for a drink." She smiled like a flower, walking to Fang Yuan's side. Boldly, she took him by the hand and pulled him over to sit at the chair by the table. Then she sat on his thigh and leaned her gentle body against Fang Yuan's chest, acting like a timid and lovable woman, whispering in his ear. "Young Master Fang Yuan, your servant has always liked you. It doesn't matter what grade you are, I will always wish to be beside you, rely on you, and comfort you. Tonight your servant would like to give her body to you." She really dressed up today. She put on blusher, her lips like cherry powder. When she whispered in his ear, a delicate and youthful breath teased at Fang Yuan's earlobe. Because she was sitting on his lap, Fang Yuan could feel her well-shaped figure easily. Her elastic thighs, her slender little waist, and her soft chest. "Young master, let me feed you wine myself." Shen Kui picked up the wine cup, raising her head and taking a sip. Then her eyes fixated on Fang Yuan, her small cherry lips a little opened, slowly leaning over to his mouth. Fang Yuan's expression was indifferent, as if what was on his lap was not a young maiden, but a block of sculpture. When she saw Fang Yuan's expression, Shen Kui felt a little uneasy at first. But when her lips were just an inch away from his, she was assured, sneering in her heart. "You're still pretending," she mused. Just at this moment, Fang Yuan scoffed, his tone disdainful. "So it's just a power play." Shen Kui's face became stiff, and she swallowed the wine in her mouth, trying to pull false flattery. "Young Master Fang Yuan, what are you saying?" Fang Yuan's eyes were emitting cold light. He stared into Shen Kui's eyes, placing his right hand on her snowy white neck at the same time, slowly pressing it with force. Shen Kui's pupils shrank, and her voice was full of panic. "Young master, you're hurting me." Fang Yuan did not answer, but his hold on her neck grew stronger. "Young Master Fang Yuan, your servant is a little scared." Shen Kui already had difficulty breathing. She was looking flustered. A soft pair of hands subconsciously grasped at Fang Yuan's hand, trying to pry his hand away. But Fang Yuan's hand was strong like iron, unable to be pulled away. "Looks like uncle and aunt let you come over to seduce me and frame me. This must mean that there are already people arranged downstairs, huh?" Fang Yuan laughed coldly, adding, "But who do you think you are, coming to use tactics on me, with the 2 piles of garbage of rotten flesh on your chest?" As he said this, his left hand climbed up her chest and ruthlessly grabbed her soft breasts, making it incredibly deformed all of a sudden. Intense pain flared from her chest. Shen Kui's eyes were round and wide opened. The pain was so great that her eyes were full of tears. She wanted to scream, but Fang Yuan gripped her throat so strongly that in the end she could only sob for a few times. Then she started resisting strongly, for she really was going to suffocate. But at this moment, Fang Yuan slowly relaxed his grip. Shen Kui immediately opened her mouth and gulped in air greedily. Her breathing was too eager, resulting in a series of violent coughs. Fang Yuan laughed lightly, stretching out his palm. He gently stroked her cheek, his tone carefree as he spoke. "Shen Kui, do you think I can kill you, or not?" If Fang Yuan roared at her with an evil and loud voice, Shen Kui might actually fiercely retaliate. But when Fang Yuan smiled and spoke in a shallow manner, his soft voice asking if he could kill her or not, Shen Kui felt a deep fear from the bottom of her heart. She was scared. She looked at Fang Yuan with terror on her face, seeing this young man smiling all over his face as he gazed at her. At this instance, Shen Kui vowed to herself that she would never forget his eyes for the rest of her life. This pair of eyes were not mixed with the slightest emotion, dark and profound, resembling a deep ancient pool that was hiding a horrifying beast. Under the gaze of these eyes, Shen Kui felt like she was naked in the midst of ice and snow. The person before me definitely dares to kill me, is able to kill me. Oh heavens, why did I come and provoke this kind of devil? Shen Kui's heart was full of remorse. At this moment, she longed to turn and flee, but right now she was still on his lap. She did not dare to run away, not even able to pluck the courage to do any action. The muscles on her entire body were tense, her gentle stature trembling. Her face was as pale as white paper, and she could not utter a single word. "Since you as a personal servant girl have been serving me for so many years, I won't kill you this time. Since you want to escape from slavery, go and find my little brother. He's stupid and naive." Fang Yuan retracted his smile and patted her cheek, his tone plain like water. With a sigh, he finally said, "You can leave." Shen Kui was as dumb as a piece of wood as she walked out obediently. She was afraid out of her wits and did not know how she managed to leave the side of the devil called Fang Yuan. The men hidden in the shadows looked confused when they saw Shen Kui come out looking so shaken. "They actually arranged such a beautiful trap. It's even more innovative than my previous life. Aunt and uncle, this kindness of yours I will remember deeply." Not long after Shen Kui left, Fang Yuan stood up and left as well. No matter what, he could not stay at this residence anymore. A wise man sees and mitigates foreseen risks. What more to say for a devil? When there is insufficient strength, only a fool would put himself in danger. "Innkeeper, do you have any rooms available?" Fang Yuan came to the only inn in the village and asked for the price. Yes. There is room on the second floor and third floor. Not only is it cheap, the rooms are also tidy and clean. The first floor is the cafeteria. Guests of the inn can come here and eat. There is also service for asking the inn workers to bring up food to your room. The innkeeper was full of hospitality as he entertained Fang Yuan. This inn was the only one in the village, but the business was not very good. In fact, it was somewhat deserted. Only when the annual merchant caravan came by to trade on Qingmao Mountain, the inn would be full of people. Fang Yuan was a little hungry, so he passed 2 full round pieces of primeval stones to the innkeeper. "Give me a good room for me to stay in, and prepare 2 jars of wine. 4 different dishes. Return me any excess balance." "Done." The innkeeper took the 2 pieces of primeval stone and asked, "Would you like to eat in your room, or dine in the hall?" Fang Yuan looked at the sky. The rain had stopped, and it was nearing evening. He could simply eat in the lobby, and set out straight for the outskirts of the village when he was done, continuing his search for the treasure of the flower wine monk. Thus he replied, "I'll eat in the hall." The inn had a dining hall. There were 12 square tables. 4 long benches surrounded each table. In between the tables were huge and thick pillars that were supporting the inn. The floor was covered with big tiles of marble, but it was wet. It was hard to conceal the moisture of the mountain. There were 3 tables seated with people. Seated by the window, an old man was drinking wine, gazing outside at the sunset. Being all alone, In the middle of the cafeteria was a table seated with 6 hunters. They were discussing about their hunting experiences in loud voices, and at their feet were a pile of different kinds of mountain prey, like pheasants and hares. In another corner was a table with 2 young people, seemingly discussing in secret. Their figures were hidden in the darkness. It was hard to see them, and harder to know their gender. Fang Yuan decided to sit by the table nearest to the door. Soon after, the dishes were served on the table. With my C-grade talent, to refine the moonlight goo, I would need to borrow primeval stones. If my luck is good, and this moonlight goo does not have a strong will, I would only need 5 pieces. But if it is stubborn that I'd be in trouble, probably need around at least 8 pieces. Goo are living creatures, so it is natural for them to have the will to survive. Some have a strong will and would always resist the refinement process. Some goo have weak will. All throughout refining they helplessly surrender. Once there was no resisting, the refining process would become relaxing. Right now I only have 6 primeval stones on me, but I gave 2 to the innkeeper, so I'm left with 4 pieces. There's not enough. In this world, primeval stones are the local currency, and the buying power is very strong. A normal family of 3 would spend at most 1 piece of essence stone in a month. But when it came to a goo master, the consumption of primeval stones was greater. Take Fang Yuan, for example. Just by refining goo alone, he would need an average of 7 primeval stones or so. And this is just on a moonlight goo. If he really did find the liquor worm, just to refine it with Fang Yuan's great talent, he would need at least a dozen more. In other words, right now my situation is, even if I find the liquor worm, I don't necessarily have the primeval stones to refine it. However, I still need to search around, because there is a huge possibility that the Flower Wine Monk's treasure has a huge abundance of primeval stones. This was not a difficult deduction. The Flower Wine Monk was a rank 5 goo master after all. For such a famous, strong warrior of the demonic faction, how could he not have primeval stones, which are the must-have item in a goo master's cultivation? Chapter 12. Green Bamboo. Wine is fragrant. Goo master flaunts power. Chapter 12. Green bamboo wine is fragrant. Goo master flaunts power. Right now, everything comes down to the Flower Wine Monk's treasure. If I can find it, all my problems will be solved. If I don't find it, all these issues will greatly slow down my speed of cultivation. If that happens, I'll lose out to people at my age in cultivating. I don't understand. I've spent more than a week trying to attract the liquor worm to appear. Why do I still not see it? Fang Yuan frowned and racked his brains. It was like putting food into his mouth, but still not knowing how it tasted. Suddenly, there was a loud noise, interrupting his thoughts. Fang Yuan looked at the direction of the sound, realizing that the 6 hunters seated around the table at the middle of the hall were heavily drunk. The atmosphere around them was fiery, and their faces were all red. Brother Zhang, come, drink another cup. Old brother Feng, we brothers admire your abilities. You took down a black-skinned wild boar alone, what a man. This cup of wine you must drink, or else you'll be disrespecting us. Thank you, brothers, for your sincerity, but I really can't drink anymore. Brother Feng can't drink anymore. Perhaps you dislike this wine because it's not good enough. Waiter, come over. Give me some good wine. The noise was becoming louder. It was obvious that the group had drunk a lot. The waiter hurriedly went over and said, "Well, good sirs, we do have good wine, but it is quite expensive." What, you're afraid we won't pay up? When the hunters heard the waiter, quite a few of them stood up and stared at the waiter. They were either big and tall, or thick and burly in stature, capable and vigorous in a threatening manner, each having the courage that mountain men possessed. The waiter quickly said, "I would not dare to look down on you brave men. It's just that these wine is really expensive. 1 jar costs 2 pieces of primeval stones. The hunters were stunned. 2 primeval stones was definitely not cheap. It was the sum of 2 months of the normal average household monthly expenses. Even though hunters earn more from hunting when compared to ordinary mortals, like how sometimes a black-skinned wild pig could be worth half a primeval stone. However, hunting was risky, and a mistake could turn the hunter into prey. To the hunters, using 2 primeval stones just to drink a jar of wine was just not worth it. Is there really such an expensive wine? Boy, you aren't trying to lie to us, right? The hunters were shouting about, but their voices felt a little timid, unable to back out of the situation with grace. The waiter kept telling them he wouldn't dare. The hunter called Brother Feng saw that the scene was not right, and he hurriedly said, "My brothers, let's not spend any more. I can't drink anymore. Let us drink this wine another day." "What? You can't say that, brother. This is..." The rest of the hunters were still shouting, but their voices started to fade away. One by one, they sat back in their seats. The waiter was also a shrewd person. When he saw this, he knew that he was not able to sell the wine anymore. However, this situation hardly surprised him. As he was about to retreat, a young man's voice came from the table at the dark corner. Hey, hilarious. Each one of them blindly shouting for nothing. If you can't afford to buy wine, you should just obediently keep your mouths shut and go to the side. When the hunters heard this, one of them immediately retorted in anger, "Who said we can't afford it? Waiter, bring over that jar of wine. I'll give you the stones, 2 pieces of it." "Oh, give me a moment, sir, I'll get it." The waiter did not expect such a turn of events. He hurriedly replied and turned to grab a wine jar and brought it over. This wine jar was as big as the common jar of wine, but the moment it was uncorked, in that very instant, a refreshing and mellow fragrance filled the entire cafeteria. Even the old man sitting alone at the window could not help but turn his head over when he smelled the wine aroma, and he gazed at the jar of wine. It was definitely good wine. Dear Guists, it's not bragging. This is the green bamboo wine. The entire village only has one inn, which is us. Smell the fragrance. The waiter inhaled deeply as he said this, his facial expression full of satisfaction and enjoyment. Fang Yuan was moved. This inn waiter was really not boasting. In the Gu Yue village, there were 3 taverns. The wines sold there were the common rice wine, muddy wine, and other similar common wine. In order for Fang Yuan to attract the liquor worm, he continuously bought wine for 7 days. It was naturally that he was aware of the prices. Several of the hunters looked at the wine jar before them. They were consumed by alcohol addiction. Each of them twitched their noses and swallowed. As for the hunter who bought the wine in a moment of anger, his expression was even more interesting. A layer of remorse and anger appeared on his face. After all, this jar of wine was the value of 2 primeval stones. I was too rash and bought the wine by impulse. This waiter is not too typical. He immediately brought the wine. Now the cork is unsealed. Even if I want to return the goods, it is too late. The more the hunter pondered, the more distressed he felt. He wanted to return it back, yet he was unable to do so in fear of being humiliated. At last, he could only bang on the table and said with a strong smile, "Damn, this wine is good. Brothers, please drink all you want. Today this wine is on me." At this moment, the young man at the table in the corner hissed, "How is this small jar of wine enough for 6? If you have the goods, then go buy a few more jars." The hunter was furious when he heard this and stood up in a rage, his eyes fixed on the young man who spoke. "Brat, you sure have a lot of words. Come, stand up and fight me." "Oh, then I will stand up." The young man got up from his seat as he heard the hunter's remark, grinning as he walked out from the shadows. His body figure was tall and thin, his skin pale. He was dressed in navy battle robes and looked clean and neat. His head wore a blue headband. His upper body had a jacket that showed his thin and weak shoulders. The lower body had long pants, The feet were covered in bamboo sandals and the calves were tied. The most important thing about him was the green belt on his waist. The middle of the belt was a shiny piece of copper. On the copper plate was a black 1 word. "It's a rank 1 Goo Master." The hunter clearly understood what this manner of clothing represented. He drew in a deep breath, the anger on his face dissipating, replaced by alarm. He had never imagined that he actually provoked a Goo Master. "Didn't you want to fight me? Come on then, hit me." The young Goo Master walked slowly towards the man, a playful smile on his face. But the hunter who had challenged him earlier had become frozen like a sculpture, unable to move from his spot. "Maybe you Gooies can all come at me together. That works too." The young Goo Master slowly walked to the hunter's table, casually speaking. The expressions on their faces had changed. Some of the hunters who had drunken red faces had gone pale suddenly. Each of their foreheads was drenched in cold sweat, and they felt restless, too afraid to even breathe heavily. The young Goo Master stretched out a hand, picking up the green bamboo wine jar. He put it under his nose and sniffed, smiling. He said, "It sure smells good. If my lord likes it, then please feel free to take and drink it. It is an apology from me for offending my lord." The hunter who provoked him earlier hurriedly replied, and cupped his hands together before his chest, pushing a smile to his face. Unexpectedly, the young man's facial expression changed fiercely. With a loud crack, the jar fell into pieces on the ground. The Goo Master looked cold as ice, his gaze sharp like a sword. He hissed angrily, "You think you have the right to apologize to me? You bunch of hunters must be really rich, even richer than me, since you Gooey spent 2 primeval stones to drink wine. Do you have any idea how upset I am over primeval stones right now? You actually dare to show off your wealth in front of me at this time? You mortals can even compare to me? We wouldn't dare. We wouldn't dare. To offend my lord, it is a heinous crime." "We mortals did not mean to offend you. These are our primeval stones. Please accept Lord Goo Master." The hunters quickly got on their feet and took out the primeval stones they had. But how could these mortals have money? All they pulled out was just bits and fragments of primeval stones. The biggest fragment piece was no bigger than 1/4 of a primeval stone. The Goo Master did not accept these primeval stones, but he did not stop sneering. He used his hawk-like gaze and swept past the entire cafeteria. The hunters that he scanned over lowered their heads. The old man who sat at the window watching the scene also quickly turned his head to avoid the Goo Master's gaze. Only Fang Yuan watched quietly, void of hesitation. The clothing that this young Goo Master was wearing was the uniform that only formal Goo Masters could wear, so Fang Yuan was not qualified to wear it. Fang Yuan would only receive it from the clan after he graduated from the academy. The word 1 on the copper piece on the belt of the young Goo Master was to indicate his position as a rank 1 Goo Master. However, he was already around 20 years or so, and the aura of primeval essence that his body emitted seemed to indicate that he was rank 1 upper stage. Starting cultivation at 15 years of age, and only reaching rank 1 upper stage at around 20 years of age, this showed that the young Goo Master was only of D-grade talent, which was a grade worse than Fang Yuan. There was a high possibility that this man was only a logistics Goo Master, not even counted as a battle Goo Master. However, even if that was the case, when facing these 6 brawny hunters, it was more than sufficient. This was the gap of power between a Goo Master and a mortal human. With power, one can be at the top. This is the nature of this world. No, actually, any world is also the same. The big fish eats the small fish, and the small fish eats the shrimp. It's just that this world shows it even more openly. Fang Yuan mused secretly. All right, Jiang Ya, you already taught them a lesson. Let's not further embarrass these mortals. If it gets out, even if you are not embarrassed, I would be. the other young person sitting in the corner voiced out. When everyone heard the voice speak, they realized that this young person was a woman. The young Gu master, called Jiang Ya, stopped sneering as his female companion chided him. He did not even bother looking at the fragments of primeval stones that the hunters had taken out. These stones were not even the sum of 2 primeval stones. He was definitely not interested in it. He flicked his sleeve and walked back to his original table. As he strode back, he said maliciously, "If you think you have the goots to continue drinking, then go and drink green bamboo wine. I want to see who still dares to drink this wine." The hunters all lowered their heads, acting like 6 obedient sons after being scolded. The strong aroma of wine filled the entire cafeteria. The hunter who bought the wine felt his heart aching as he smelled the fragrance. After all, he had spent 2 primeval stones on this wine, yet he never got to drink even one mouthful. Fang Yuan put down his chopsticks. He had eaten enough. As he sniffed in the wine aroma, his eyes flashed for a moment. Then he took out 2 primeval stones and put them on the table. "Waiter, give me a jar of green bamboo wine," he said indifferently. The whole scene froze. The young Gu master, called Jiang Ya, instantly stopped in his footsteps. The corners of his mouth twitched, and he exhaled. He had just finished his warning, yet right after he was done, Fang Yuan wanted the wine. This was like specially stepping over him and slapping him in the face. He turned around and narrowed his eyes, shooting a cold glare at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan calmly stared back, his face indifferent and void of fear. Jiang Ya's eyes flashed, and the coldness in his gaze slowly disappeared. He felt the aura of primeval essence on Fang Yuan's body. After realizing Fang Yuan's identity, he lit up with a smile and said warmly, "Ah, it's a junior brother." Everyone else came to the realization, and the looks they shot at Fang Yuan changed. No wonder this young teenager was not one bit afraid of a Gu master. It was because he was also one. Even though he was still attending the academy, his position was already different. "Lord Gu master, your wine!" The waiter scurried over, smiling all over his face. Fang Yuan nodded at the young Gu master and took a jar of wine and walked out of the inn. "I believe it means that he is putting in effort, yet he cannot see the results." TN. Note: it's 7 a.m. now. I'm going to sleep and translate another chapter later if I'm not called to go to work. Chapter 13. The Bamboo Forest Under the Moon, a Bead of Snow. Chapter 13.